Welcome back to Pax Europiana, to our debate series about European future and European reform. You know, I'm very much promoting EU of 37 countries. That includes also Moldova. And this video is about European Moldova, Moldova to join the Western world fully in the European Union, in NATO and with the Euro. And actually starting with the Euro, I will make that very much clear in this video. But let me start with an apology, because really Moldova is very dear to my heart, and I feel we have to start here with an apology, because it's now already a decade, more than a decade, that the Moldovan civil society, there was this Twitter revolution they call it, they really wanted to be part of the West, and we have rejected you. And that's very unfair and not justified, and it is, really wrong. I was now the last years from before 2004 always involved in these European debates when I worked in the European Parliament for Dr. Rübig, and then later in the Balkans, and there was never any question about the European future. Not for Slovakia under Mecha, not for Poland ever, not for the Cyprus divided, for small Malta. That was very clear, we will do a Big Bang enlargement in 2004, and then we will continue Croatia, Romania, Moldova. And as a student representative I think it was in 97, I was in Romania, and then later traveled as well to Moldova, to Chisinau, and so I saw it already. And it was very clear, we simply continue after Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, then comes the Balkan, and then the next countries who want, obviously. If Moldova wants, if Ukraine wants, if Georgia wants, then there will be clearly EU members and NATO members, and who can reject it. But sadly, in these difficult times after the financial crisis, and your first westwards, really strong westwards direction was happening during that moment in 2009, and there was a lot of focus on other things, and there was of course already the stronger confrontation in the Second Cold War with Russia and the Georgian War, and there was unfortunately, I'm really there was no courage, or there was no resolve, and there was no readiness, and so the situation, my apologies in short version. But we are here in 2020, the Corona crisis, now it's a new moment, and let's see what can be achieved in the upcoming ERP summit. And definitely Moldova should be part of the West. And what has changed very much, obviously, in the last 6 years is that your eastern neighbor, your very important eastern neighbor and big Ukraine, is clearly moving towards the West, and is clearly moving towards very clear and good future inside the Western world, with a clear future towards EU and NATO, and it's making big progress on that one. And that's of course in the geographic situation of Moldova, squeezed between Romania already in EU and NATO, and of course of Ukraine moving now very fast westwards, is of course very beneficial and very clearly positive. Yeah? The other thing is also, what is very good, and this is very important to mention as well, is that Romania, after this very difficult phase where the socialists have done so much corruption and so much protest against them, and there was this kind of unfortunate period in Romanian history, which is actually such a dynamic and growing and successful, powerful reform country, but they had this bad 5 years. That didn't endear them very much with the European leadership, all this complicated situation. I think you will remember the remark of Mr. Juncker about so many prime ministers from Romania. So I think that's hopefully now settled. And that means what? That means obviously that Romania is much closer to America now in NATO, much more popular in the European Union as a powerful country here in the region. And obviously also it will be meaning the Eurozone membership and the Schengen membership. Yeah? I'm confident that this crisis will focus minds and hearts in Brussels elite and in Germany, and as a result there will be fast-track membership of the Eurozone and of Schengen for Romania, and that will be very much important as well for Moldova, I think so. And so that means with more powerful and serious Romania, and with this new crisis looming, the hope is there that wisdom reigns, and there will be a EU candidate, the potential candidate status, including EPA, pre-accession funding for Moldova, as well for Ukraine and for Georgia. And that's obviously what I very much support and what should happen. Moldova in many ways is already, in Central European Free Trade Agreement, and that's why I had this idea also to promote very much Ukraine and also to have Georgia in CEFTA and maybe also Azerbaijan and Armenia. But first of all, Ukraine, obviously, that would be very helpful. Moldova is already in the Regional Cooperation Council, in the European Danube Strategy, and that's why also Moldova in the administrative situation is already very advanced when it comes to EU approximation, not accession, unfortunately. That's the EU's responsibility to have rejected Moldova, and I hope they will turn this around. But Moldova is very much, in the administration capacity, is very good because it's sitting with the Southeastern European countries on the table, very much integrated. And obviously with Ukraine being a second partner, in this new grouping of non-accession countries in CEFTA, in RCA, will be much more powerful. This will help also Moldova to have a stronger partner to knock on the door in Brussels and to open the door as well. So what I say, when it comes to NATO membership, it's it's more or less similar situation. Obviously there's no war in Transnistria anymore since a long time, and it's not like annexed, but it's a complicated region with a long historic tradition with Russia. So ultimately what I say, again, NATO membership is only possible for free Moldova. That means you have a federal state of Moldova with exactly, if I'm correctly counting now, 5 regions plus 1, so these 5 regions to join NATO and the EU, and Transnistria can ask later, it's totally fine. Or maybe some people in Transnistria think it's actually quite a good idea to join immediately when it's possible. I think they will be very much interested, because it's not so that they are really benefiting so much from the present arrangement, and the oil crisis of Russia will be now very, very severe. So maybe no long-term transition is necessary. If it's clear the road goes to Brussels, maybe many in Transnistria will be very interested. So the BRD I have discussed also in detail when I discussed about Ukraine and Georgia already, but this is the one model. Maybe it's not necessary for Moldova, because when now things are getting very clear, and then maybe Transnistria will join. How to get them very clear? Again, you have to force the issues by yourself, and that works with the currency. Remember again how it worked in the BRD. It worked with the currency reform in June 48. So the same here. Forget the lei, not forget it, but pack it now, make a currency board like Bosnia, like Bulgaria, like Macedonia, immediately now, to avoid any devaluations during the crisis, and go to the next step. The next step is obviously to adopt the euro like in Montenegro or in Kosovo, and then have just the currency very flat out, euro, and that's it. And that message will be very understood. Even you can have it before Romania. Good. If they are lazy and lax, you can overtake them. And that's a very powerful statement. With the euro, you force the issue. Nobody can stop Moldova to adopt the euro. That's the way to do it. Most of the Moldovans anyhow work already outside of Moldova, as far as I understand it. There is massive labor in immigration towards Italy, Germany, and Romania. And so basically the Eurozone is already very much present in Moldova. And so basically adopt unilateral the euro and make clear where is your future, and then apply for NATO and for the EU, and fast track these issues to be a member of the of NATO in 24 and a member of the EU in 29. Why is this necessary? Let's compare Romania with Moldova. I mean, the countries are very similar when it comes to history and tradition, so it's very good to compare how the rich is now Romania GDP per capita. It's at 12,300 GDP net per capita in dollar. Romania is at 3,200. I mean 12,000 to 3,000. This is really the difference the EU regulatory market access framework makes, 12,000 to 3,000. I mean, really, why to stay so poor and be the poorest country in Europe at this stage is not necessary. And if now some, it's always a pendulum, because we rejected you, the European parties lose credibility, then the Russian-funded parties are saying, oh yes, we have a better option, and also Russia is impressive somehow, big oil, Putin, yeah. So okay, I understand that, yeah. And then you are a bit torn between East and West, yeah. And that's a bit the history of the last 10 years, or maybe the last 100 or 200 years of Moldova. But it doesn't have to be so, because now this geostrategic situation is completely different. It just needs a yes, a courageous yes, welcome from the side of EU and NATO, and I think that will be much strengthening the pro-European forces and the currency reform I have mentioned already, and then it looks much different, and the prosperity of Romania is reachable for the Moldovans. Why not? That means 12,000, why not? It can be very fast. What you can learn from Romania as well is to have lower taxes, because I think now 10% is the best level for a transition country in Central and Eastern Europe, and so it's very good to go to 10% after the Corona crisis, not to somehow focus too much on budget finance, but really focus on private sector growth and allow for lower taxes, and so you can grow yourself out of the crisis, obviously with support of the European Union. There will be also massive support, I'm convinced, and I hope for, at the ERB summit in June 2020. So the potential EU candidate status, you have to obviously build a coalition with Ukraine, Georgia, and to work very much with the Estonians, Latvians, Lithuanians, Polish, Slovakians, also with the Croatians, with the Bulgarians, Romanians, that you really want it and you want it now. There's support. Yeah? The present EU leadership is much more pro-European than any of the last 10 years. Yeah? We had, unfortunately, he was a great European, but less interested in Eastern Europe. From 2014, we had a very appeasement-oriented foreign policy towards Russia from Italy. That was very unfortunate, but it's over now. Now we have a very pro-European, pro-American leadership back in Brussels again. So now it's the time to force this issue for the potential EU candidate status, start with the currency peg, call for adoption of the euro, ask for the EU potential candidate status, and it will come. It will come in the year 2020. I'm absolutely convinced. So when it comes to regulatory alignment, I think Moldova has done already a lot. Whatever, the exact status of all laws I cannot have in the overview, but the thing is to do whatever you can do really fast, because when you want to have such a decision in the December Council adopted for EU potential candidate status for Moldova, Ukraine and Georgia, you please bring the arguments on the table, back to the euro, adopt laws and laws and laws, yeah? Just be fast, yeah? And be decisive. So when it comes to infrastructure interconnectivity, now Ukraine is really pushing very hard on this €3 billion package for 2020 in motorways and infrastructure interconnectivity. Yes, do the same. Yeah? Make sure that you have now a Romanian EU commissioner for transport. Yeah? I mean, there's a reason for that, and that's also very good. So you make sure that Ukraine, Moldova and Romania are so much interconnected with transport corridors, yeah, that really prosperity is fast, yeah? And it helps very much to build a lot after this recession. So that's really very good, and be ready and full speed ahead for full infrastructure interconnectivity. Best would be to be in the transport treaty in Belgrade, this result of the Berlin for the Balkans process. The association is there, and why not to join the transport treaty? It's so logical. So when it comes to federal Moldova, it's very important because you have Gagauzia, you have Transnistria, you have all in all 6 regions. Austria is also a federal state. Yeah? Germany is a federal state. America is a federal state. The USA, United States of America. That means to have a system where you have competition between the regions, where you have economic governance mainly in the regions, where they are responsible for promoting investment, public, private, for promoting SMEs, infrastructure, and to have a system where the regions compete with each other on that one, to have competitive federalism, but also controlling federalism, that you basically control the federal level and that you have really strong regions. Strong regions are important for SME development. They are the European model to have a strong Tyrol and a strong Gagausia. That's very good, you know. The regions must be strong. Don't be afraid of any bullshit when any kind of propaganda comes about some theories, you know, about union with somebody and craziness, you know, all these crazy ideas of separatism and unionism and fear of a breakup, you know, it's not happening in this Europe. Yeah? This times is over. This was the past, yeah, and it was really not happening at all so much, yeah. And you know, when you have any specific questions, just ask me to make a separate video about fears of anything. But the normal way to organize a country is with strong regions like Upper Austria, like Salzburg, like Bavaria, like Wisconsin, like Texas, and to have this at all six regions. And Transnistria, I'm actually confident there will be no complicated need for long-term settlement. You know, once the NATO and the EU is there, yeah, I think Transnistrians will be the first ones to be very happy to be rich and successful and united. But give all the necessary regional rights with an assembly, with a governor, with all these minority rights in languages, education, social, cultural, wherever they will be required. And that's very good. Yeah? That's a really positive contribution to Europe, to have also Gagausia with the language rights it needs, with the identity it has as a basis. And so this will be enriching the world for tourism, for economic development, and this is very good. So I have said on this slide, which I will add as well, that Transnistria can join later if they really don't want to be part of this European Moldova. Let them be a separate entity somewhere on the sidelines of history, and you know, they can join later. But given their geographic and political position, I think they will be very, very interested to be part of such a successful reform process. And that's actually what I recommend very much for Moldova, to be as fast as possible. And let me make a last statement. Join the European Customs Union immediately in 2022, if it's possible. I think it is possible, because most of the things are prepared. And what you want really to be as an observer in the Eurasian Economic Union is beyond my understanding. I simply cannot understand what is attractive on the Eurasian Economic Union. Yeah? It's anyhow, you have seen the recent crisis with Belarus and Russia on the milk market, on the petrol market. You know, this is the treatment you get. Yeah? You know, it's maybe nice to be on summits with the Eurasian Union, make an old man, old communist kind of style photo with 6, when you have the alternative to be with 27 plus 7 or 8 in the European Union. The European Union project with 20 trillion of GDP and the Eurasian project with 2 trillion. The regulatory situation, it's much more advantageous to be in the West. So Moldova, please join the West fully, join the European project, and be fully pro-European country, and it will be European Moldova, and will be very successful decade to come. Thanks a lot. Bye.